Monday morning in Tuscany was supposed to be a reckoning. Rich Forrester had made up his mind. He would board the boat, sail into the golden horizon, and take Brooke Logan with him, away from the manipulations, away from the mistakes, away from Nick Marone. He had replayed the conversation with Eric in his mind 100 times, every word echoing like a warning bell. Eric was right, this wasn't just about love. This was about saving Brooke from another disaster. From another man who wore charm like a suit, but hid a predator underneath. Ridge had learned too much in too little time. And none of it was good. Nick wasn't just the smirking rogue who had once won Brooke's heart. He was something darker. Something more dangerous. Ridge's private investigator, initially assigned to dig into Nick's financial dealings for business leverage, had stumbled into something far more sinister. A trail of offshore accounts, coded communications, and untraceable transactions all tied to global narcotics rings. Ridge was stunned. At first, he refused to believe it. But the evidence was overwhelming. Nick Marone wasn't just hiding secrets, he was living a double life. A kingpin disguised as a lover. His yacht wasn't just for show, it was a floating fortress. And Brooke? She had no idea. Even worse, Ridge discovered a pattern of women. Beautiful, vulnerable, disposable. A string of relationships that ended in silence or scandal. Women who had vanished from the public eye after a brief, passionate affair with Nick. One had accused him of coercion. Another had been found living in a rehab facility in Paris, her identity changed, her story buried. Nick had connections in the legal system and enough money to make anything disappear. Ridge couldn't believe Brooke would be next. He couldn't let it happen. So he planned the intervention. The boat was ready. The crew briefed. Brooke had received his message, an invitation to talk, one last time, before she made her decision. Ridge stood on the pier, heart pounding, the Italian wind tearing through his coat. This was it. His final move. He would tell her everything. The truth about Nick. The lies. The drugs. The women. He would beg her to see reason. And if she agreed, if she chose him, he would take her away from all of it. But fate had other plans. Just as Ridge placed his foot on the boat's polished deck, his phone buzzed. A private number. He almost ignored it. But instinct kicked in. He answered. It was Taylor. Her voice was unsteady. Not scared. Not angry. But trembling in a way Ridge hadn't heard in years. She spoke slowly. Carefully. Like every word was a detonator. And then she said it. Ridge. I'm pregnant. And it's yours. The world stopped. For a full minute, Ridge couldn't speak. The boat faded from view. The mission, the plan, Brooke, everything blurred under the weight of that one sentence. He managed to breathe. To respond. Are you sure? Taylor was silent, then firm. There's no doubt. It's yours. I found out yesterday. I didn't know how to tell you. But you need to come home. We have a decision to make. Ridge staggered back from the boat. His mind raced. This couldn't be happening. Not now. Not after everything. He had just let go of Taylor. Just allowed himself to choose Brooke fully and finally. But now? A child? He didn't say goodbye to Brooke. He didn't send a message. He booked the fastest flight out of Florence and vanished. Meanwhile, Brooke stood on the opposite end of the pier, her heels clicking against the stones as she approached the boat. She wore white, unintentionally symbolic. She held the message Ridge sent that morning, hopeful and terrified. But when she arrived, the deck was empty. The sails were still. Ridge was gone. In his place stood Nick. He stepped from behind the captain's quarters, holding a ring in a velvet box. His voice smooth. Calculated. You came. I knew you would. Ridge always lets you down, doesn't he? Brooke tried to speak, tried to ask where Ridge had gone, but Nick pressed forward. Forget him. He'll never be what you need. You've always been too loyal to ghosts. Let me be your future. He got down on one knee. Behind him, The sea glittered like a trap. Brooke froze. Her heart screamed with conflict. Everything about this felt wrong. Too soon. Too forced. But the pain of being stood up again, of Ridge choosing Taylor again, was slicing her open. And Nick knew it. He saw it. And he pushed harder. Say yes, Brooke. Say yes to someone who won't leave. Back in Los Angeles, Ridge landed just before dawn. He went straight to Taylor's house. She opened the door in silence. There were no pleasantries. No distance. She held out the pregnancy test, the medical report, everything. He took it all in. It was real. They sat in the kitchen, the air thick with unspoken questions. I didn't do this to trap you, she said. I wasn't trying to win you back. But you need to know, this baby deserves a father who's present. And I won't go through this alone. Ridge nodded slowly. You won't. But inside, he was spiraling. He wasn't ready for this. He was in love with Brooke. He had planned a new beginning. Now, all of it hung in limbo. He wanted to tell Taylor the truth. That he had been about to leave with Brooke. That he wasn't sure what came next. But she was already crying. She was already planning. And Ridge, as always, was trapped by his own sense of duty. Meanwhile, Nick and Brooke returned to the villa. She hadn't said yes. But she hadn't said no. Nick poured champagne. Brooke sat silently, staring out the window. Her phone remained dark. No call. No message from Ridge. Only silence. And in that silence, Nick began to win. By nightfall, the news had started to leak. Taylor's pregnancy. Ridge's return. The press swarmed. Paparazzi camped outside Taylor's home. Forrester Creations buzzed with rumors. Thomas and Steffi were shocked. Brooke, still in Italy, heard the news through an alert on her phone. She stared at the headline, Taylor Hayes expecting Ridge Forrester's child, and then she knew. Ridge wasn't coming back. The betrayal shattered her. But more than that, the shame. Once again, Ridge had chosen Taylor. Once again, she had been left behind. And Nick, like a vulture, moved in. He comforted her. He kissed her. He reminded her that he never left. That he was always there. And slowly, Brooke leaned into it. She wasn't in love with Nick. But she was tired of pain. Tired of chasing Ridge. Tired of always coming in second. So when Nick asked again, this time in the quiet of their suite, no audience, no performance, she said yes. Not because she believed in forever, but because she had nothing left to lose. Back in LA, Ridge watched his world spin. He had the truth. He had a child on the way. But he had lost Brooke. And he couldn't undo either. What comes next is uncertain. But one thing is clear. This isn't just a love triangle anymore. It's a war. Ridge Forrester returned to Los Angeles a changed man. Just hours ago, he had been standing on a pier in Italy, moments away from pulling Brooke Logan back into his arms, determined to rescue her from Nick Marone's web of deceit. He had uncovered dark truths about Nick, drug trafficking, a hidden trail of women, a pattern of manipulation, and had every intention of exposing him. But fate intervened with a phone call. One sentence from Taylor Hayes shattered everything. I'm pregnant, Ridge. Stunned, torn between his past and an unexpected future, Ridge boarded a plane and left Italy without a word to Brooke. He landed in LA and went straight to Taylor's house, where she waited in silence, her face etched with emotion. She didn't try to sway him. She didn't beg. She simply handed him the evidence. The test results. The doctor's note. A due date that traced back precisely to the night in Monte Carlo. Ridge stared at the paperwork, then at her. Stunned, overwhelmed, but unable to deny the truth. Taylor was pregnant. With his child. And in that moment, everything shifted. Ridge stepped forward and embraced her. The weight of weeks, of choices, of emotional wreckage, all of it fell away as he held the woman carrying his child. There was no anger, no hesitation, just relief. For the first time in a long time, Ridge felt certain about something. He wasn't running from responsibility. He wasn't retreating into guilt. He was standing in front of a new beginning, one he hadn't seen coming, but now couldn't imagine turning away from. But as fate would have it, Ridge's peace would last only minutes. Just as he pulled away from Taylor, heart pounding with cautious hope, the television in the clinic waiting room changed everything. Breaking news alert. Red banner. Urgent. Yacht capsizes off Italian coast. 2 Americans missing. Ridge froze. Images flickered on the screen. Emergency boats cutting through dark waves. Helicopters hovering overhead. Divers plunging into the ocean. The names came next. Ridge didn't need to hear them, but he did anyway. Brooke Logan and Nicholas Marone believed to be on board. The reporter's voice crackled with urgency. The boat went missing after failing to return to port following an unscheduled excursion. No distress call. Debris found miles off the coast. A life preserver washed ashore. The Italian Coast Guard had launched a full-scale search. Ridge's heart stopped. He staggered back, eyes locked on the screen. For a second, the room went silent. He didn't hear Taylor calling his name. Didn't feel her hand gripping his arm. All he could see were the waves, the flashing lights, and the unbearable possibility that Brooke, his Brooke, was gone. He had left her. He had walked away. And now she might be lost forever. The guilt sliced into him like a blade. All the things he hadn't said. All the chances he hadn't taken. He had planned to tell her the truth about Nick, to save her, to give her one last outstretched hand. But he had let it all go when Taylor's words pulled him home. And now? Now it was too late. Taylor, seeing the anguish on his face, pulled him close. She whispered that they needed to hope. That maybe Brooke had survived. That maybe it wasn't over. But Ridge couldn't hear hope. All he could hear was the crashing of waves and the image of Brooke on the deck of that boat, waiting for him, thinking he would come. He dropped into a chair, his hands in his hair, his breath ragged. "I should have been there," he whispered. Taylor knelt beside him, pressing her hand to his chest. "You were where you needed to be, Ridge. With me. With our child." But Ridge shook his head. "I left her. I let her go. And I knew what Nick was. I knew he'd never protect her. That yacht. It was his. He brought her out there. God, what if it was intentional?" The thought took the air from the room. Could Nick have done this? Could he have orchestrated the accident? Could it have been a cover, a way to escape with Brooke? Or worse, something more sinister? Ridge stood up. His voice hardened. "I need to go back. I need to be there. I can't sit here and do nothing." Taylor tried to stop him. "You just got here. Ridge, think about what this means for me. For the baby." But Ridge wasn't thinking clearly. He was already halfway to the door. The father in him warred with the lover. The man trying to start a new life was haunted by the woman he might have just lost. He paused at the doorway, eyes torn between past and future. "You saved me, Taylor. You did. You gave me something real again. But if Brooke's out there, if she's still alive, I have to find her. I have to know." Taylor didn't argue. She nodded slowly, heartbreaking. "Then go. But come back." Ridge flew out that night. Back in Italy, the search continued. The wreckage spread across the water. Divers found fragments of the hull. A woman's scarf, Brooke's, wrapped around a shattered piece of railing. No bodies. No blood. Just silence. The press spun wild theories. Suicide pact. Elopement gone wrong. A storm that came out of nowhere. But Ridge knew. This wasn't an accident. Nick had secrets. He had motives. And now Ridge would find out the truth, no matter what it cost. As the episode fades, Ridge is shown on the deck of a Coast Guard vessel, eyes fixed on the horizon, wind whipping through his hair, searching. Behind him, Taylor sits alone in Los Angeles, one hand on her stomach, the other gripping the couch cushion with white-knuckled fear. She saved Ridge from dying emotionally, but she couldn't save him from chasing Brooke. And now everything hangs in the balance: life, death, family, truth. Only one thing is certain: nothing will ever be the same.